A single joke on a talk show quietly mocked Keanu Reeves, and no one expected what happened next. Keanu stayed silent just like always. But then Sandra Bullock stepped in, not with anger, not with drama, but with a response so graceful, it flipped the entire narrative. What she said didn't just defend Keanu. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Dive into what really happened. Just moments earlier, the studio had been filled with laughter. The kind of easy, careless laughter that belongs to late-night talk shows, where jokes fly freely and no one expects discomfort. Bright lights shone over smiling faces. Cameras glided smoothly across the stage. Everything felt normal until it didn't. What was meant to be a light and playful conversation suddenly shifted. The energy in the room changed so quickly that even the audience seemed to sense it. A few laughs faded halfway through. Some smiles froze. Millions of viewers watching from home felt it instantly. Something was off. The host had been casually discussing Hollywood relationships, joking about couples who didn't fit the usual celebrity image. The topic felt harmless. Then Alexandra Grant, known for her intelligence, artistic background, and thoughtful public presence, joined in. She laughed, leaned forward slightly, and made a comment that on the surface sounded playful. But beneath the humor, many felt a quiet sting. Her remark pointed toward Keanu Reeves, not directly, not cruelly, but enough to be noticed. She joked about how he didn't quite match the typical Hollywood mold, how he wasn't flashy, how he preferred simplicity over spectacle. The implication was subtle but clear. In a world obsessed with image, Keanu seemed out of place. Some people laughed. Others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Because Keanu Reeves is not admired for loud opinions or dramatic appearances. He is respected for the way he lives his life. The way he treats strangers with kindness. The way he avoids attention, even when the spotlight chases him. The way he gives without announcing it, and listens more than he speaks. To many, the joke felt less like humor and more like misunderstanding. Keanu wasn't there to respond. He never is. He has always chosen silence over self-defense, dignity over debate. And in that moment, he remained exactly who he has always been. Quiet, composed, untouched by the noise. But not everyone watching stayed silent. Behind the scenes, away from the cameras and applause, someone who knew Keanu not as a symbol, but as a human being, was paying close attention. Someone who had shared screens with him, laughter with him, and years of friendship. Sandra Bullock. And what she would say next would change everything. At first, the comment didn't sound cruel. It was dressed as humor, delivered with a light laugh, the kind that usually passes without a second thought on talk shows. But humor has a strange power. Sometimes it entertains. And sometimes, it quietly carries judgment beneath the smile. That's why this moment struck a nerve. Keanu Reeves has never followed Hollywood's unspoken rules. In an industry built on luxury, excess, and constant self-promotion, he has chosen a different path. He rides the subway like everyone else. He dresses simply. He avoids flashing headlines and red carpets whenever he can. When he gives millions to charity, he does it quietly, without cameras or press releases. And perhaps most importantly, he never brags about it. To many people, Keanu represents something rare. Authenticity. So when a joke hints that his humility makes him less than or out of place, it feels deeply unfair. Not because he is fragile, but because the values being questioned are the very things people admire him for. The reaction online was immediate. Clips from the show spread rapidly across social media platforms. Viewers replayed the moment again and again, analyzing the tone, the wording, the laughter. Comment sections filled with mixed emotions. Some called the remark harmless. But many more felt it carried a dismissive edge, even a sense of quiet superiority. Fans were quick to point out an uncomfortable truth. Mocking humility often reveals insecurity, not humor. When someone is laughed at for choosing kindness and simplicity, it says more about the culture than the individual. And yet, through all of it, Keanu Reeves remained silent. He didn't tweet. He didn't clarify. He didn't defend himself. 'Cause he never does. Keanu has built a reputation on actions, not reactions. He doesn't chase validation or demand respect. He simply continues being who he is. But this time, silence didn't mean the moment went unanswered. Instead of outrage, something far more powerful took place. Someone stepped forward, not to argue, not to accuse, and not to create drama, but to remind the world who Keanu Reeves truly is. Sandra Bullock wasn't expected to speak. She wasn't part of the controversy. She wasn't scheduled to respond. She didn't need to say anything at all. But she chose to. And that choice would soon change the entire conversation. Later that week, the conversation about Keanu Reeves had not died down. Clips of the talk show circulated widely, sparking debates online. Fans and critics alike were dissecting every laugh, every subtle jab. And while the world waited to see if Keanu would respond, he remained silent, calm, composed as he always does. Then came a moment that no one expected. Sandra Bullock, Keanu's longtime friend and co-star, appeared on a different talk show to promote her latest project. The interview was light, filled with casual banter and playful questions about her film. But near the end, the host casually mentioned Keanu Reeves. The audience erupted into cheers, a mix of admiration and excitement, sensing a special connection between the two Hollywood stars. Sandra smiled, but it was a thoughtful, measured smile. She could have ignored the topic. She could have moved on. She didn't have to respond to a joke made on another show, especially one that had sparked criticism. Yet, in that quiet moment, she made a choice that would leave millions of viewers in awe. She didn't mention Alexandra Grant. She didn't refer to the joke directly. She didn't attack, mock, or criticize anyone. Instead, she simply spoke the truth, calmly, gracefully, with authority that only comes from sincerity. Keanu is one of the kindest humans I've ever known, she said. He doesn't try to be impressive, and that's what makes him extraordinary. The audience erupted in applause. But it wasn't just clapping for a celebrity. It was recognition of a profound idea. Sandra continued, her voice steady and warm. In an industry that rewards noise, he chooses silence. In a world obsessed with image, he chooses substance. And that's not something to laugh at. No sarcasm. No anger. No drama. Just truth. Her words were not a weapon aimed at anyone. They were a shield, protecting the reputation of someone she cared about while reminding the world why respect is earned quietly, not demanded loudly. In that single, simple statement, millions of viewers understood something important. Grace doesn't need to shout. Class doesn't need to be aggressive. True admiration doesn't attack. It uplifts. Sandra Bullock had turned a potentially divisive moment into an example of dignity and poise. And in doing so, she reminded everyone that defending someone doesn't require confrontation. It requires honesty, respect, and quiet strength. The conversation about Keanu Reeves changed that day. Not because of headlines, not because of anger, but because grace spoke louder than any joke ever could. The contrast could not have been more obvious. One moment on that talk show had made people uncomfortable, leaving a sense of awkwardness lingering in the air. The next moment, on a completely different show, inspired admiration, reflection, and even a little awe. The difference wasn't in loud arguments or dramatic statements. It was in grace. Almost immediately, clips of Sandra Bullock's calm but powerful words began to circulate online. Social media lit up with reactions, shares, and threads analyzing her every phrase. Fans praised her for defending Keanu Reeves without turning it into a feud, without attacking anyone, and without a hint of bitterness. Comment sections overflowed with messages like, "This is how you stand up for someone." Sandra Bullock just showed the difference between ego and class. Keanu didn't need to say a word. His character spoke through her. The response was overwhelming because it went beyond celebrity gossip. People weren't just cheering for Sandra or Keanu. They were recognizing a universal truth. It's easy to criticize or mock someone quietly different. It's easy to create drama for clicks. But defending someone with dignity, that takes subtle power, awareness, and integrity. And Sandra's approach reminded everyone of that. Even viewers who had initially laughed at the original joke began to rethink their reactions. They realized that Keanu's humility, his quiet, understated approach to life, was not something to be laughed at. It was something rare and admirable. The online conversation quickly shifted from a moment of mockery to a broader discussion about how society views humility, kindness, and quiet strength. Articles, tweets, and posts dissected Sandra's statement as an example of class over ego, calm over chaos. People debated the difference between entertainment and respect, recognizing that true admiration doesn't need noise. It doesn't need to fight or retaliate. It simply exists quietly yet powerfully. And in all of this, Keanu Reeves once again became the center of admiration without ever saying a word. His silence, paired with Sandra Bullock's words, spoke volumes. The narrative had changed completely. What started as a light-hearted joke had transformed into a lesson for the world. A reminder that sometimes, the strongest voice is the one that chooses not to raise itself at all, but allows truth and character to shine. In the end, the internet didn't just react. It reflected. And the conversation about respect, grace, and integrity had taken center stage, leaving a lasting impression far beyond the confines of Hollywood. This story, at its heart, isn't really about a talk show. It isn't about a joke or a fleeting moment on television. It's about something far deeper. How we choose to respond when someone we respect, admire, or care about is treated unfairly. It's about character, integrity, and the quiet power of grace. Alexandra Grant's comment, whether intended or not, sparked discomfort. Some viewers laughed, others winced. But intent doesn't always matter. The effect of words does. Humor can hide judgment, and sometimes a seemingly light remark can overshadow the values we hold dear. Sandra Bullock's response reminded the world why tone, delivery, and intention matter just as much as words themselves. She could have chosen anger. She could have responded with sarcasm or criticism. She could have joined the online debate, engaging in viral drama like so many others do. But she didn't. Instead, she chose grace. She chose calm over chaos, truth over spectacle, respect over revenge. And in doing so, she didn't just defend Keanu Reeves. She elevated everyone involved, including the audience, by showing that loyalty, kindness, and integrity are far more powerful than loud arguments or public shaming. Her words reminded people that defending someone doesn't have to humiliate another person. It can be an act of dignity and wisdom. Keanu Reeves continues to live quietly, unaffected by jokes or praise. He doesn't need headlines to validate him. And yet, Sandra's words amplified his character in a way that silence alone could not. They highlighted a simple but profound lesson. True strength doesn't shout. It stands tall, steady, and unshakable. The next time you witness someone being underestimated, mocked, or misunderstood, remember this moment. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to attack or retaliate. Sometimes the most powerful response is subtle, deliberate, and kind. Sometimes, telling the truth with grace is more impactful than 1,000 heated arguments. This is a lesson worth sharing. Not just for Hollywood, not just for celebrities, but for all of us. Because in life, there will always be moments where someone's character, humility, or quiet integrity is questioned. And in those moments, how we respond, with anger or with grace, can define not only how others see us but how we see ourselves. Sandra Bullock chose grace. And that choice, simple as it was, changed the conversation, and reminded the world what true strength really looks like.